The new Ikelite DS underwater strobe just might be the top strobe Ikelite has ever created. We had the opportunity to dive extensively in Socorro, Mexico with this strobe and capture thousands of photos, coming back with some spectacular results. Check it out. Hey guys, this is Nirpam from the Underwater Photography Guide and Blue Water Photo. I just got back to our office in Culver City, California after leading an awesome underwater photography workshop to the Socorro Islands where we got to hang out with humpback whales, silver-tip sharks, Galapagos sharks, silky sharks, tuna, pretty much anything that you would want to see out of big pelagics, they were there in Socorro. And I had the lucky opportunity to photograph them with this new strobe here. So this is the newest strobe in Ikelite's lineup. It's the DS230. It's Ikelite's highest end of their highest end strobes. So this is about the best that you can find on the market currently, and it retails for $1,500. So the DS230 is rated to 100 meters at depth, so it can go all the way down to 330 feet. It has 213 watt-seconds of power, so that's a significant step up from the original DS160s. It has a 120-degree beam angle without diffusers, which in most cases means you don't really need to shoot this with diffusers. The recycle time is 0.2 seconds to 1.2 seconds. So if you're at full power, it'll be 1.2 seconds. If you're at a really low power, it could be 0.2 seconds. And that just ranges depending on what your power is. 1.2 seconds is pretty fast considering what the actual output is when it comes to watt seconds on the strobe. The color temperature of the beam is 5,000 degrees Kelvin, so that's a pretty warm beam, which brings out a lot of your reds and your vibrant colors underwater. It makes your blues look a little bit deeper in comparison. And finally, the strobe has this nice nickel metal hydride battery pack, which is easy to kind of take apart, charge, and then put right back on. And I didn't take that apart for a couple weeks. I probably should have lubed this a little better. Anyway, and then you just close it up and it's ready to go for your next dive. So it's nice not to have to deal with like multiple batteries everywhere and battery chargers and that kind of stuff. You just take the pack off, you plug it in, you're good to go. When it comes to connections to cameras, the strobe has a 5-pin connection for Ikelite sync cords, but you can also use adapters for fiber optic cables, so it can take both fiber optic and sync cords, as well as Ikelite's TTL converters. So if you want really fast and accurate flashes, it's going to be right on with the TTL converters from Ikelite. They're some of my favorite TTL converters and I find to be the most accurate. So you might be wondering, how does the size compare to the original DS160s and 161s? I'd say it's about as round, but it's actually a lot shorter and a little bit lighter. So I've been pretty stoked to see that they could fit more power, quicker recycle times, and a better beam in a smaller, more compact flash. And electronics these days just get better and better. So you're seeing that with this strobe, and I've been pretty stoked about that. But that's enough specs. I can sit all day here and talk about specs and you might not really understand what I'm talking about anyway. I think it's important to show what this strobe can do. I had the chance to take it diving for a full week of 4 dives a day, 3 to 4 dives a day, with 2 strobes or 1 strobe. I actually switched off. Some dives I dove with only 1 strobe, and I was pretty impressed with that as well. But I think you guys should see my photos and hear my thoughts about it before you make your decisions on whether you should upgrade from your original Ikelites or this might be a strobe in your future. It's something to think about. I really do think personally that this strobe belongs at the highest end of the category, and I think the $1,500 price point is justified for what it has to offer. Let me start by saying that the beam has changed a little bit. It is the circular flash tube that you see on the DS160s and the 161s, but John assured me there's been a few tweaks, and I actually took it diving. I took it down without diffusers, and I had the same subjects that I had shot previously with older models of Ikelite strobes, specifically the 161s, and I actually found that the beam had less hotspots, and that was shooting white-tip reef sharks and silver-tip reef sharks especially. I had the same shark in the same location, in the same lighting, with this strobe without a diffuser and the DS160s with a diffuser, and you can see the difference in my photos where there's a hotspot on the one taken with the 160s with diffusers, and the DS230 photo is really nice, really clean, soft. I think it's a beautiful beam, and the color temperature is just right too. It's not too warm, and it really makes your blues come out. So I was actually really stoked to see the quality of the light coming from these strobes, and I had an awesome time just taking photos of sharks with sunballs and watching this beautiful light just envelop those sharks and really bring them out from their background. So I thought that really came out well, and I was super stoked to see that with these strobes. I also did a few reef shots of some of the reef animals in Socorro. We had a couple of slow days where we didn't see quite as much stuff, and I focused on, I think, a moray eel where the colors really popped and the background really popped, and you could see the blues and the shark swimming in the silhouette behind it. So I was really happy about that photo. I think that did another great job of showing what you can do with just one strobe. That was just one DS230. So if you're starting out and you're not sure you want to spend $3,000 for two strobes, you might not have quite the creative opportunities with one strobe, but you certainly have the power, and I never really felt like I was lacking power with there being 213 watt seconds in the strobe. It's more than enough power at the highest end of your shooting. Now, you might be wondering, like, in terms of power, I haven't talked about guide number. That's because guide number is kind of an inaccurate estimation between different strobe models, and it's really hard to say, like, oh, this is a guide number of 32, which it does. Is that underwater, above water? Like, what does that really mean? I would say guide number of 32, it is more powerful than the DS160s and 161s, and that was apparent. I did a lot of sunball shooting, and I was able to properly expose with my TTL converter all of these sharks in sunballs, even in shallow water, where you need a lot of artificial light to fight your ambient light. And I think for shallow water shots, if you're in a warm water environment with clear water, these strobes will do you just fine, even if you have one strobe. Now, the circuitry in the DS230s has changed quite a bit from the original 160s. It has created faster cycle times, but also I feel like the recycle times are more consistent. So when my strobes were going off, it was like pop, 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 and each one was really rhythmic, and it also kind of allowed for each exposure to be the same between shots, and that was a little bit different than my 160s. With my 160s, I might have one exposure brighter, the other one a little darker because it's trying to catch up with their cycling. I didn't notice that as much. I did notice that there's a built-in safety feature on this strobe, so if you really overfire it and it's close to exploding the bulb, which I've done with 5 strobes, not Ikelite strobes, but I've done with 5 strobes, this will stop you from blowing out your bulb, and I was kind of happy about that. Now, I was shooting with a prototype. Ikelite is planning on making it a little less conservative than it was for me. When it comes to strobe operation, you might be excited to see the dials have changed. They've changed completely. They're super easy to use, super easy to turn. I had no problems at all. This is a prototype strobe. It doesn't quite have the numbers on it yet, but it will. So yeah, to turn it on, you just do one turn down. And what's cool about this strobe is if you turn it all the way up, it gives you a flash, a pre-flash to show you that, yes, the strobe is working. And then you've also got a fuel gauge, and you can see I've used it, so I'm at 2 out of 3. So if you're wondering how much strobe power you have left, this strobe will actually do that for you. Now, the TTL and manual controls are super simple. If you have an external TTL converter, which I highly, highly recommend, you just put it up here on TTL. And if you want to shoot manual, you can move it down into your manual settings, turn down your TTL converter to manual, and it's super easy to turn. It's nothing like how the 160s used to be. It's not tough at all. It's great to operate with gloves and cold water. I had no problems with operation, and that was really nice to see that. So I'm actually a lot more comfortable shooting manual now with these strobes because the dials are just really nice and big. That being said, I only shot TTL. Now, for those of you that think that photography can only be done in manual, you're not faster than a fish. So yes, I have my camera in manual mode, but my strobes I use in TTL a lot of the times, because if you have a shark that's coming straight at you, each exposure needs to be different as that shark gets closer. I find that the Ikelite TTL, because it's an electronic circuit, it's a quick, immediate feedback from your camera. It works, it's really accurate with each exposure, and I found that to be true in my shots. I had really fast sharks that I was shooting, and you can see in these photos that each exposure was accurate. I never took it off TTL mode, and this did just as good of a job as previous Ikelite strobe models have done in the past, and I've, no complaints there. I'm super happy, actually. Ikelite has a special design where, it's really difficult to get this strobe to flood. It has a compression O-ring system, and it just pushes it together, and your battery pack is separate from your strobe head, so it's a pretty safe strobe to use, and it's not very likely that it will flood. So yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts. I wanted to make this a short video, just show you guys what I did with the DS230s. And yeah, I really hope you guys have an awesome time diving with them underwater. If you have any questions, as usual, drop them in the comments below. Be sure to like this video. It helps us reach more people, and they can find out more about these awesome strobes and see the photos that I took. And be sure to subscribe so you can see more videos about not only gear, but also tutorials and things to help you with your photography.